Just address. I'm waiting. I'm going to answer another question while you're writing the answer. Look at the vast majority play solo duo. The 90% of games are solo queues for solo queues. What difference does banning teams make? Here's the problem. Here's the problem. In the current system, nobody cares. Fuck, I'll just make the video. Yeah, let's just do the video now. Okay, I'm gonna address everything right now. I'm gonna make my little video on this shit, my topic on this. So we're gonna 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? It's Lord Helseth here. So there's a lot going on right now. The discussion between solo queue and duo queue basically taking over ranked. So right now, for those of you that don't know, there is a dynamic queue, meaning that you can queue as many people as you want, and then the matchmaking system desperately tries to make a balanced match around that. So if you queue as 4, the matchmaking system will attempt to find 4 plus 1, and they're trying to match that match together. Now, here's the problem with this system, right? Here's the problem with this system. It is that there is no quantifiable way to determine of what you're accomplishing when you're playing, okay? What I mean with this is, if you play solo, let's say you play solo, let's because right now, the reason why this discussion is so big right now is we've seen developers such as Grouch and Gale, I think so, on the forums talking about there being a massive change in Season 5, okay? They've said that there's going to be a massive change in Season 5, that the prestige of getting your title is going to be noticeably different, and that the system is basically going to be entirely different from before. Now, let's remain optimistic and assume just that this is just a proper rank-up system with proper leagues, that if you're really good, if you're really high rated, you get really high placement, like obviously, right? Like a standard system in any competitive game. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. The accomplishment of getting the highest possible rating, let's say you get top 100 in the rating. You get top 100 in the rating as a solo player versus someone playing as a 5-man. There's such a big difference between playing as a solo player and playing as a 5-man that there's no quantifiable way to see whether you actually got the achievement that you got playing on your own, or whether you were playing with a team. And this becomes even further of a problem if there is an actual leaderboard attached to this. Let's say that there is a legitimate top 100, which, I should add, Grouch has specifically said on the forums. Let me find the quote, because he actually specifically mentioned it. Forum Guild Wars 2. Give me a moment. He specifically mentioned that if you want to get top 100, it's going to take some skill. Okay? Let me see here. Now, why is this so important? Why is this quote so important? Well, let's say that I want to take top 100. Okay? I care about the rating so much that no matter what, I want to take top 100. And I'm competing versus other people. Do you know what I'll do? I'll take my team. We will compete. And we will take... Well, top 5. We'll take number 1 to 5 because we're the best, right? But we'll take the top spots, okay? And then the people chasing us, trying to compete with us, is going to play with a team. And then the next people are going to play with a team. And then we're going to play with a team. And eventually, the top 100 is all going to require a team. Which means that eventually, as a solo player, as a duo player, you will find a barrier where you're not allowed to compete anymore. Solo players will theoretically never be able to take the top 500, whatever this may mean. Or because eventually you're just going to be locked out. And this has never, ever in the history of Guild Wars 2 worked. Never. It just hasn't. Like when the PvP scene was at its most competitive and active was during the solo queue days. Granted, we have more players now because ArenaNet has done a lot of good ways to include people into PvP, being better, people actually get stuff for it. We used to be in the top 1, but we got nothing for it. It was just a name on the leaderboard. Right now there's rewards attached to it and whatnot, and that brings more people in. As well as all the various achievements you can get in the game and the backpacks and all that stuff. Basically, there's a lot more people playing right now. But the system has not been able to successfully be competitive ever since. And that is because the vast majority of people that play the game, in every game, especially in this game as well, because I know from the history, I've been on the top MMR the entire time, right? So I know, looking at the games, people do not want to play as a team when they're competing in ranked. They don't. They're not looking to compete. People just want to play, just like how I want to play and all that shit. when you're just climbing on your own, because you need to have a competitive outlet where you as a player can grow without having to be forced to be with a team. Many people will remember how Guild Wars 1 had issues with this. To get good at the game, you remember if you play Guild Wars 1 and you were in Heroes Ascent and all that stuff, do you remember the nightmare of needing to be rank 3 to actually get to join a group? And in order to join, in order to become rank 3, you needed to actually win games, but the only way to win games would be if you were rank 3, so that you could actually join a group in the first place. So basically what happened is that it was basically the circle jerk, where nobody could actually compete. Whether you were a competitive player or not, you never got the chance to compete. Guild Wars is going to be the same. Let's say that to get to the higher ranks, let's say that Legend is attached to this, so the divisions, said divisions is attached to your rating. This basically means for you to want to climb to, say, Legend, you're going to have a team. You're going to have a team. However, what team is going to pick you up if you're Sapphire and you can't climb? And let's say that at Ruby, people start playing as a team. What are you going to do? You can't do shit. And this is going to ruin the competitive sense. Like, I know how the competitive communities work. This has been proven time and time again, which is when people have a reason for why they lose, they give up. When people find that that it's out of their hands, that they just can't improve and all that stuff, that it's just the system's fault. We've seen how the community reacted to the idea of people pre-mating. Like, it wasn't even a problem in Season 1, generally speaking. Like, most people that got Legends, myself included, didn't pre-mate. I didn't pre-mate, but you still saw like these various random cases of people pre-mating to Legends, and it became such a widespread issue. People were quitting PvP and whatnot because they felt like there's no reason for them to compete, like there's no fairness for them to compete. It's literally, and the idea of getting Legend at the time was basically seen, well, you just pre-mated. There's no prestige to it. Now, when there's prestige to it, it'll encourage competition. When there's competition, it'll encourage the community to grow and get better. And when we get better and grow, it's going to snowball into a positive effect for us. We need more competitive players. And back in the day when we actually had a solo queue system in Guild Wars 2, we had a solo queue system with no rewards outside of the leaderboards, with no rewards whatsoever, with fucking Skyhammer. All right, Skyhammer was so bad back then, dude. It was horrible, but we still played. And we still strive for improvement because people just want to be competitive. People wanted to be the best. I remember, like, shout out to Intego, for example, who was a War Worlder, right? He spammed that crazy and eventually got rank 1 because he wanted to prove that, like, he as War Worlder could do better and all that stuff. And one of the main complaints from every single competitive player is that there's no competitive outlet. We just need that more than anything else in this game. We need a chance for competitive players to grow. And the arguments against having a real competitive area where you as a player can actually like aspire for something to improve and to improve with the community, because everyone will obviously be trying to climb, right? The need for this is so extreme. And the argument against this is basically people saying, well, what about people that want to compete as a team? Well, people don't compete as a team. In ranked, they don't. They don't. They never have. They never. I've been in the. Sorry, my headset died. I've been in the top MMR of this game for a really long time, okay? People don't compete in ranked as a team. They don't. It's not the proper outlet for it, because to compete, you just want to play. And people, you find good players doing this, and eventually, if you wanna compete as a team, like if you find people that you wanna compete with a team and all that stuff, and there actually winds up being a situation where we've gotten so many competitive players from our system, from our ranked proper system, that they all wanna compete, but we don't have an outlet for them, then that is one of the best problems we can possibly have as Guild Wars, because we as a community can easily take care of that. I can just throw a ton of gold. I can throw legendaries, right? And just sponsor tournament events. We have Academy Gamings and all that stuff for teams to compete in regularly. We will have, if you have a team and other people are making teams and you all want to compete, you can easily find scrims. Easily. There won't be an issue. Trust me. We have every single resource imaginable for you to, as a team, to try to compete. We just make community tournaments around it. However, if we continue to have such a uncompetitive environment and separation and segregation of potential, like the difference between an ESL player and a legendary player right now is pathetic. Like, it's insane. I've played legendary for a long time, and all that stuff now, and I find people in legendary that can AFK on close the entire game. They AFK on close the entire game. That is unacceptable. That is the equivalent of someone playing StarCraft 2 in Grandmaster without hotkeys, that they're clicking everything. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it literally shouldn't even exist, but it still happens, which shows like the incredible disconnect that's happened right now between actual competition and the current in-game system. And if there's no segregation of dynamic queues and competitive queues, then people will never be able to take it seriously, and we're never going to be able to grow as a community. It is so important for us to try to help find a location for competitive players. And I'm not saying this as someone that's like, like, I'm not saying this from the benefit of anything that can lead for me, like, it's not like I have a problem facing teams in queues, because they don't exist at my rating. If I try to find, if I set up a 5-man, and we try to queue, I will never get a pop, ever. People don't play as a team at my rating. However, that is right now because nobody cares. Nobody cares about whether you win or lose. We don't care whether we win or lose. We don't care about like anything right now in the matches. The system is just broken, right? So nobody right now cares about matches. In the event where they care about matches and people become competitive, we should try to have an environment where we can have as many competitive players as possible. Okay? And that's not going to work if you do solo duo. Sorry, if you don't do solo duo. Because you're locking out so many people. If the basis for you to compete is that you need to have a 5-man, you need to convince them. You need to convince them to join on whatever time schedule you guys need. You need to get on together. You need to queue together and all that stuff. If that's going to be the basis for you to try to like just play in this game and get good, then you're just going to lose all your players. Like, you're not going to get any growth. The obvious vast majority of the community is solo duo, like when you're trying to compete. Obvious. And then if you find a team and all that stuff, then we can work that out from there. If that becomes a thing, then I will do everything I can for the community, because obviously, like, I care about the competitive community more than anything else, right? So like, if that becomes a problem, then us competitive players, it will be our responsibility. It'll be all our responsibility the entire way through. If there's a solo duo and there's a proper competitive ranked system, then it's our responsibility to help teach people like how to climb. We will make content around that. We will make guides. We will make all that stuff that you guys can blissfully ignore right now, because you can get legend while standing on close the entire time, or you can make a pre-mid in Stronghold and don't even play the game. All these kinds of things. It'll be our responsibility, but it'll be something that every single competitive player is happy to help with, because we want the game to grow more than anything, right? So there's that. And there are further arguments for like the existence of a dynamic queue would be something in the lines of I want to play with my team. Like, I want to play with I just want to queue with my team. Like, and then my question to that comment will be, do you want to compete with your team? Are you actually actively looking to become as high up as possible with your team? Or are you just randomly queuing every now and then, doing nothing? Because in that case, you might as well just do an unranked, right? All you're doing is creating an unbalanced match when you're doing that. When you're queuing with a 4-man with your friends, you're having your fun and all that stuff, you're ruining the match for the other side. Because theoretically, if I set up a 4-man, if I set up a 4-man, and I go on TS with all my people on my caliber, there is no roster that the Guild Wars 2 system can find that will ever create a balanced match. Ever. It doesn't work. It's unfair. Like, it's such an unfair matchup to set, because in Guild Wars 2, having communications is basically, it's so much more than other games. It's incredible how much it matters, because rotations become so different, So if you're just casually playing, then you can casually play an unranked. You don't need rank. You don't need to ruin the competitive aspect for the vast majority of people just so you can randomly chill with your friends, right? Like in non-ranked. Now, if you're looking to compete, there will be Academy Gamings. There will be plenty of competitive outlets for that. But there's a different argument here. And the people that, quotes, get screwed over by the idea of having teams locked is such a ridiculous minority. For the in exchange for the integrity of the competition, it's so big, really. I can't stress enough how big this is for the competitive community. How big it'll be for everyone. We're going to be able to grow so much from this. And I plead to the community to actually to go for the solo duo for the longevity of the game, as well as, I should add, devs did say on the forums that in the event of us having a permanent solo duo, they will investigate getting a different team outlet. Again, the team outlet is such an irrelevant part. If you want to truly compete with your team, whether it's a casual tournament or a competitive tournament, you will get the chance to. The community can take care of that. In every game, in Smash, people are competing by flying out to each other and hooking up their GameCubes to each other, you know? It can be done. However, if the community is segregated to the point where nobody can actually get a proper competition without going through an insane level of hoops, just to play the game, not to compete, not to like go in a tournament, not anything, but just to play the game and try hard, then if you have to go through all these hoops, then you're just losing competitive players. Period. That's the end. Hopefully I made some sense. Thank you for hearing my words, and I really hope we can get this done for the greater good of the game. Alright, more or less that. I'm gonna have to look at take a second look at it, but I'm gonna respond to the chat during this time. Right now, the poll is not on a 5-man and a team queue and a solo queue. It's literally just solo duo or having a dynamic queue. Dynamic queue is shit. Dynamic queue is fucking retarded. We should not have a dynamic queue. Look, this poll, we're obviously going to win it. Obviously, the solo duo poll is going to win this poll. The problem is that there's a second poll after this for the permanence of solo duo. And it's going to require a supermajority, meaning that's going to be like 75%. That is the problem. That is the poll we have to beat. It's gonna do so much for the game, dude. It's gonna do so much for the game. It's what I've been waiting